Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Winter, and welcome to Judges, Volume 2, the review type thing. Released on May 26, 2020, Judges Volume 2 is the follow-up to Volume 1, featuring returning author and editor Michael Carroll, Maura McHugh, and Joseph Elliot-Coleman. And Maura, I really do apologize if I've mispronounced your last name. Volume 2, much like Volume 1, is an anthology collection of 3 short novellas from all 3 of these authors, focusing on a different set of judges each time and in different years and locations and different scenarios, which is a fantastic way to approach this. As far as I'm concerned, if that Mega City 1 television show ever comes out, this is how you do it. You don't need Judge Dredd to make a good story in the Judge Dredd universe. Nothing against Dredd, but it can be done, and these authors, much like the 3 authors in the first volume, show you exactly how to do it. I wouldn't consider it essential to check out Volume 1 if you're curious about Volume 2, but I would recommend it, as Michael Carroll's story Golgotha in Volume 2 is a direct follow-up to his story in the first volume, The Avalanche, which we'll get to here in a moment. This is going to be a spoiler-free review. I'm just going to give you the basic premise of the stories so that you can check these out yourselves, because much like Volume 1, I thoroughly enjoyed Volume 2 and recommend it. And again, if you have not watched my review type thing for the first volume, I'm a person who came into these books knowing very little about the Judge Dredd universe, only having seen the 2 live-action movies that have been released. Now, having said that, let's dive a little bit deeper into Judges, Volume 2. Starting off the collection is returning author and book editor Michael Carroll's Golgotha, taking place in the years 2033, 2039, and 2041. Golgotha follows the adventures of Judges Santana and Kurzweil, as well as the last ever Police Academy graduate, Officer Kwan. The judges find themselves working with the local police enforcement during the transition period, which is still going on after the first volume, in order to take down a drug lord who is in charge of a massive drug ring spanning multiple states. The story is a direct follow-up to Michael Carroll's contribution to the first volume, The Avalanche, and as such I was very satisfied, because this follows a certain plot thread that had seemingly been abandoned at the end of Michael Carroll's The Avalanche, so I was very pleasantly surprised and very happy to see that it has been expanded and elaborated on here in Volume 2. The pacing and the structure of the story is very solid. Michael Carroll has quickly become one of my favorite authors, and currently I'm reading his contribution to Judge Dredd, Year 1. That being said, though, there is a little bit of confusion early on in the story, as there are characters that are seemingly thrown out of nowhere who later become elaborated on, and it is revealed what their contributions to the stories fully are, in a very satisfying way, I may point out. Overall, I was very happy with this story. It is absolutely my favorite one out of Volume 2 of the 3 that are in this volume. Cannot recommend this one enough, but again, highly recommend you check out The Avalanche before checking this one out. The second story in the collection is Maura McHugh's PSYCHE, taking place in the years 2044 and 2141. PSYCHE follows a judge from the Psi Division in the year 2141 who is reading through the records of the first ever Psi Division for the judges, an operative unit known under codename PSYCHE. I was a little concerned going into this one because I could tell by the title what it was about, and I had tried reading Judge Anderson Volume 1 before picking up Judges Volume 2, and I found that those stories concerning Psi Division and Psis in general are a little bit hard for me to follow in text form. For me, I think they're better explored. Well, they work better for me, at least, if there's a visual attached with the words, or even just in a visual medium only, like a movie or a television show or something like that. But I think it really works best in the comic book department, as I had to reread quite a few chapters and paragraphs in Judge Anderson Year 1 just to understand what the hell was going on, because it was a little bit too confusing for me sometimes. But again, I'm new to the Judge Dredd universe, so maybe this is just a me problem and not something that everybody else would have. Having said that, I was actually entertained and very engaged with PSYCHE. It came up and surprised me. Maura McHugh was able to describe everything that was going on and explain everything going on in a way that wasn't confusing for me. I don't recall having to reread any paragraphs or anything like that just to try to understand what the hell was going on. It was a surprisingly good concept that was very satisfying for me, and I absolutely enjoyed every minute that I read it. And it does have a very good plot twist, which I'm not going to spoil for anybody because I didn't see it coming, and oh boy, what a shock it was. Thoroughly entertained by PSYCHE. The third and final story in the collection is Joseph Elliot-Coleman's The Patriots, set in the year 2047. The story focuses on Judges Clarkson and Douglas as they try to stop a terrorist organization known as the Patriots, who want to liberate the country from the iron grip of the fascist judge system. This is another one that was a little bit of a surprise for me, as I found myself enjoying it much more than I originally thought I would once I got a couple of chapters into it and could kind of see where it was going with the story. The characters are good, the writing is excellent, there's good dialogue all around, and there's just a score and unending library of excellent one-liners that have heart behind them and aren't just being said by characters just for the sake of making somebody come off as being a badass. The characters can back up their badass one-liners. Judges Clarkson and Douglas work well together. They play off one another excellently. They're a perfect fit, but I wouldn't exactly consider them to be of a Lethal Weapon caliber partnership. It's a solid enough story, but for me it had peaks and valleys of entertainment. There was a good climax, but there was a little bit of a plot twist at the end that just absolutely came out of nowhere, with no setup to it whatsoever. It was supposed to be surprising, but I found it to be just there. You know what I mean? Like, it didn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. Not every plot twist should be set up, but some of them just kind of seem to be there for the sake of being there, and this is a plot twist that I would consider to be exactly that. Now, having said that, there is some pretty good action in it, although it is a little bit, not necessarily muddied or hard to follow, but sometimes it just kind of ends without going into too much detail as to how it ended or what even happened, and that's a little bit disappointing to me. But overall, the action was, it was okay. The detective work, however, is absolutely fantastic. I, for some reason, have really become a fan of when the judges actually have to rely on their instincts and skills as detectives as opposed to their brute strength, force, and authority. And I also found it interesting, not to get too political on anyone, that the book has a very interesting release time, considering the nature of this story and the current political climate, at least in the United States, and what apparently seems to be going on around the world. This was actually very surprising for me to read, and was like, okay, that's where things could go. Alright, I guess I'm ready. Overall, I found Judges Volume 2 to be an excellent continuation of the story from Volume 1, The Avalanche, and it's a good collection as a whole. I figure if you enjoy the Judge Dredd universe, that particular character, and Judge Anderson, you're going to love Judges Volume 2. Again, though, I have seen some complaints already, even though the book has only been out for a couple of weeks as of this recording, that this is an actual novel and not a comic book collection. But I really don't think it helps that when you read the adverts for this thing, it's labeled as an omnibus, as that is typically a word that is more associated with what used to be called comic book trade paperback collections. I do recommend it, and again, if that Mega City 1 television show ever happens, I think this is how you should do it. Just bring Judge Dredd in for, a couple episodes or whatever, but make the show an anthology collection where the whole season doesn't follow one arc. Every episode is its little self-contained story. In the book's introduction, author and editor Michael Carroll does state that Volume 3 is currently being worked on and will take place in the 2050s, which has got me curious because what do you do with the series as you're going through the decades? I mean, the whole point of the series is to show how the world of Judge Dredd and Mega City 1 comes to be. I think you can only do that for so long before you just kind of start repeating the same ground and going over the same things. I'm very curious to see where the series is going to go. I don't necessarily agree with having every book focus on a different decade, like, Volume 1 took place in the 2030s, and Volume 2 almost exclusively takes place in the 2040s. I don't really see why you need to do that. I think you can do different decades in one collection and kind of just bounce around through the years and whatnot, but that's what they're going to do, and I genuinely am curious to where they're going to go with it. Not saying that I don't think it can be done in a thoroughly entertaining way or anything like that. I'm curious to see how it's going to work out. I've thoroughly enjoyed both Judges volumes so far, and I'm looking forward to Volume 3, and I'm especially looking forward to Michael Carroll wrapping up the story that he set in place with Volume 1 in the Avalanche. If I do have one request for the series, however, it would be that Nathan Archer, Stephanie Perry, and Kevin J. Anderson get a shot at writing some characters in this universe, because god damn, I think those three could do amazing things with the setting and with the judge system and just the whole nature of the universe. I'd love to see those three have a shot at it. But I do recommend Judges Volume 2. I enjoyed it. Looking forward to Judges Volume 3. Thank you for checking this out. You've been great. I've been Winter, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care of yourselves out there. It's a fucked up world and it's a crazy time. Just be careful and please endure.